Hey everyone, what's going on? If you're new to this channel, what I talk about is how our mainstream media is run by a script, and it's synced up to the sports leagues and our told history, and the people who control our sports and control our mainstream media and our told history, they understand ancient knowledge things, and they're using this ancient knowledge such as Hermeticism and Kabbalah and Kundalini and astrology. They understand this and they're using it to essentially play God over the rest of the world. And right away, I'm just going to show you an example. So I made this video about Ralph Northam, the Virginia governor, wearing blackface. And I'll leave a link to this video in the description. But within this video, I talked about how it was synced up to the story about Bow Wow being in the media too, for being arrested. We got these stories right around the same time. And in this video, I even went on to mention how there's something connected to Kurtis Blow the rapper. In the movie Like Mike with Bow Wow, they have the song Basketball, right? Basketball is my favorite sport and so on. That's an old Kurtis Blow song. And I even mentioned on here, and I put this video out on 2/3 even, how possibly we're going to get a story with Kurtis Blow in the near future. And, on February 6th, we get this story about a Virginia Attorney General now wearing blackface, and he did it as a tribute to Kurtis Blow. So, what are the odds, And, like I said, I'll leave this video in the description, but the reason why it was important, and I knew it was synced up to Bow Wow, was because this Ralph Northam story, they kept calling it a minstrel show in the mainstream media. And the last time that I saw that in the mainstream media was when Kanye West visited the White House. And when Kanye West visited the White House, Don Lemon called it a minstrel show. And earlier in the year, on August 8th, I believe it was, or earlier in August, we also got a story about Don Lemon interviewing LeBron James. And after that interview, Donald Trump tweeted that Don Lemon made LeBron James look smart and he likes Mike. And think about that in regards to Bow Wow the rapper, who's in the movie called Like Mike, that is all about basketball. I also mentioned how Kanye West is synced up to Queen Elizabeth, and right around the same time too, we got a story about, we had the death of the Fleetwood Mac guitarist, and then we got a story about one of the other members in Fleetwood Mac trying to sue Fleetwood Mac. And think about a minstrel in regards to medieval times and whatnot. And there was a whole bunch of king symbolism that was going on. And think about LeBron James, who is King James. He won the NBA Finals in 2016 on the real King James's birthday when he was with the Cleveland Cavaliers. A Cavalier in history is a follower of King Charles during the English Civil War, and King Charles was King James's son. And if Queen Elizabeth dies, then her son Prince Charles will become the new king and be King Charles III. And there's a lot of important things that were going along with it. Donald Trump gave his national convention in Cleveland just after the Cavaliers won the NBA Finals. Then after Trump won the election, the Cavaliers and Trump both visited the White House on the very same day. That was just after Cleveland had lost in the World Series, right? And a ton of other things. Donald Trump called out the NFL on the same day that LeBron James called him a bum, and a bunch of other things. In Gematria, which is the practice of coding numbers into words and phrases, the word wall equals 48, and Donald Trump equals 48, and the Mexican-American War came to an end in the year 48. Think about Cleveland, that equals 48, and they haven't won a World Series since 1948. Donald Trump had the biggest election upset since the year 48 when Harry S. Truman upset Thomas E. Dewey. And he was the president during the Korean War, and Korea just so happened to be established in the year 48, and that's why Donald Trump addressed the nation on January 8th. Can't even type it out here, but that's Kim Jong-un's birthday. Kim Jong-un, look what Kim Jong-un equals. Kim Jong-un equals 48. Just throwing it out there, but World War also equals 48 in Gematria. Pence is the 48th vice president now. We also had a closest supermoon after Trump won since the year 48, and it just so happened to fall on Prince Charles's birthday. Prince Charles, born in 1948. So just please check out the link in the description. I also talked about, when Kanye West went to the White House, I talked about how that was synced up to the Queen Elizabeth. And right around that same time, we also got a story of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announcing that they were going to have a baby and whatnot. And Kanye West has just been synced up to the Queen since at least 2015. Even, all of his stuff with Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift equals 168 in Gematria. And Beyonce Knowles also equals 168 in Gematria. Just like if you read out Queen Elizabeth II, that equals 168 in Gematria. Remember, Kanye went up on stage and whatever with Taylor Swift. And in 2015, I believe it was, at the VMAs, after Taylor Swift had won a whole bunch of awards and whatnot, they called her the Queen of the VMAs, right? The Queen of the VMAs. And I'm going to talk about why that's important here in a second, because Kurtis Blow's birthday is August 9th, and we're getting all these stories out of Virginia that equals 89 in Gematria. I'll explain why that's important to the Queen here in a second, but the reason I'm bringing all this back up is just because I want to point out that it's connected to the royal family stuff. In 2015, Kanye West got to go play in Glastonbury, and because the Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl, fell off the stage, so Kanye West went to Glastonbury and played. And when he was there, he sang the Queen song, Bohemian Rhapsody, right? And think about this. Just after Kanye West goes and visits the White House, in November, we get the movie Bohemian Rhapsody being released. The Queen movie, right? Queen, and just think about it, right? The movie Bohemian Rhapsody comes out. All of the stuff I'm talking about with Kanye West synced up to that, and then we get that film that comes out just after he goes to the White House. And the reason it was important we got the story about Fleetwood Mac is because Fleetwood Mac has a song called Rhiannon, and if you look that up, it's actually supposedly the Lady of the Lake who gave Excalibur to King Arthur, right? And think about Glastonbury and King Arthur. So it's definitely important. I'm pretty sure that's even why in the movie Aquaman, he becomes King Arthur in that movie that just came out this year too, called Aquaman. Also think about Ralph Northam and how he said he dressed up like Michael Jackson, right? The King. Michael Jackson, the King. If you've been following me for a long time, I've been talking about how the word Ralph is really synced up to the King symbolism as well. We have the movie King Ralph, right? King Ralph that has John Goodman in it. A lot of other stuff that's important to it, but just pointing it out. His name's Ralph. And I talked about all of this in the previous video. But Michael Jordan is important to all of this as well because of all that wall symbolism and the number 48. His birthday just so happens to be on February 17th, which is the 48th day of the year. And the reason that sticks out so much is because today we got a story about Justin Fairfax, another Virginia guy, right? I can't even think of what he is. The Virginia, something in Virginia, whatever he is. The Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. He was also recently in the media. So we have these three guys that's all connected to Virginia, right? And we got a story today about how another lady has accused him of sexual assault. But look at this. Look at what his birthday is. February 17th, Michael Jordan's birthday. And once again, clear back in here in my original Bow Wow video, I talked all about Michael Jordan's birthday, and in 2017, the NBA All-Star Week was supposed to be held in Charlotte, where Michael Jordan owns, but because of the North Carolina bathroom law, they moved it to New Orleans. And this year, now it's just so happening to come again, and it's going in Charlotte in 2019. They are having it in Charlotte this year, and the All-Star game just so happens to fall on Michael Jordan's birthday. If you go back and look at my videos, I have a whole playlist where I talk about Michael Jordan. Like 2015, the same year Kanye sang the Queen song at Glastonbury. Let me find it here. I have a whole playlist. 82 videos in there. And there's probably more that can go in there. Michael Jordan's Space Jam. I also talked about the movie Teen Wolf, because in 2015, at the NBA All-Star Week that fell over the festival of Lupercalia, where they celebrate and sacrifice a wolf in remembrance of the she-wolf who suckled Romulus and Remus, where Rome was founded. And in the All-Star Week that year, we had Andrew Wiggins, who was a teenager who played for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He won the Rising Star Challenge MVP to open up the All-Star Week on February 13th, which is also the first day of Lupercalia. Then the next night, his teammate, Zach LaVine, won the NBA Slam Dunk Contest wearing that Space Jam dunk. And he was also a teenager, and so a teen wolf. And what's funny about that is I also talked about how that was synced up to the Golden State Warriors, because that came 122 days before the Warriors won the NBA Finals, and Golden State equals 122. And I talked about how Kevin Looney for UCLA was the leading scorer that day on Valentine's Day. We also had Denzel Valentine make the game winner on that same day when he was playing for Michigan State. But anyway, the Warriors after that got Kevin Looney. They drafted him, right? And it was all synced up to Zach LaVine doing the Space Jam dunk, right? But Zach LaVine went to college at UCLA. Russell Westbrook the next day won the NBA All-Star Game MVP. He went to UCLA. Andrew Wiggins was traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves for Kevin Love, and Kevin Love went to UCLA. And also think about Kevin Looney, who played for UCLA. And I decided to watch the movie Teen Wolf because I thought that was important. And when I watched that movie, there was Nebraska Cornhusker stuff all throughout the background of the movie. And it really makes no sense because it's not set or filmed in Nebraska, but they have Nebraska Cornhusker stuff everywhere. And he joins the school play when he's the wolf, and it's about the Civil War. Think about Lincoln, Nebraska, Abraham Lincoln, the Civil War. That's even why Dwayne Wade went to his first ever Nebraska Cornhusker football game in 2015, because his wife is a fan of the Cornhuskers. Her name's Gabrielle Union. Think about it. Abraham Lincoln, the Union. Anyway, later that year, the Nebraska Cornhuskers had a terrible season in football, and they played UCLA in the Foster Farms Bowl in Levi's Stadium. And a bunch of other stuff, Their coach became Mike Riley that year, who came from the Oregon State Beavers. And the reason that's important is because the mascot in the movie Teen Wolf, it comes from the Oregon State Beaver. And then the Nebraska Cornhuskers got, the Oregon State Beavers coach to coach for them that year. Then they played UCLA in the Foster Farms Bowl. But there's this big Teen Wolf narrative. And so let me go back to my videos here. I want to show you in between this Kanye West video and this other video that I talked about. I made this video talking about the Nebraska and UCLA stuff and Teen Wolf. So I just find it interesting. Between these two videos, I bring up this wolf stuff. Michael Jordan turned 52 years old that year. And the reason that's important is because the word wolf in Gematria equals 52. And notice it equals 56 This year he turns 56 years old. So I know that is important to what I'm talking about. He was 52 then. Now he's going to be 56 years old this year. Even if you write out Cornhuskers, that equals 52 in Gematria. And 2015, we had the birth of Princess Charlotte on the date of 5/2. And think about that in regards to Michael Jordan once again. You know, Princess Charlotte, Michael Jordan owns the Charlotte Hornets. That's where the NBA All-Star Week is going to be held this year. Queen Elizabeth, she became the queen in the year 1952, right? That's why the book Charlotte's Web came out in the year 52. And, you know, even Michael J. Fox, look at that, 52 and 56, just like the word wolf. What are the odds, you know? Also, you know, words like president equal 52, White House equals 52, the word government also equals 52. Remember, Pope Francis came to the United States that year, and it was the 239th year of the United States, which is the 52nd prime number. Well, look at the word Pope, 52, also 56. If you write out royal family also equals 56 in Gematria. Society of Jesus equals 56. That's what the Jesuits are. Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope. Back in December, YouTube gave this video I put out about it, about Teen Wolf and Lincoln and whatnot. I put it out on February 21st of 2015, and YouTube gave it a copyright claim and blocked it like worldwide. Now, why in the world will they do that out of nowhere? In the end of 2018, they blocked this video. But if you notice, it came out on the 52nd day of the year. And when they blocked it 56 days before Lupercalia begins, the Wolf Festival, 56 days, right? And a big thing I talked about with Michael Jordan way back when was how he's important to Valentine's Day. And, you know, think about Chicago for one, and Chicago is where the St. Valentine's Day massacre happened before the Stoneman Douglas one, just after Super Bowl 52, right? But, and Philadelphia won. It was all because of the flag stuff. Donald Trump called out the NFL on 23/9, the 52nd prime number. And, you know, the flag was supposedly sewn at 239 Arch Street in Philadelphia. That's why the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year, Super Bowl 52. But Valentine's Day equals 52 in Gematria. So it's definitely important to what's going on. I even documented about Michael Jordan. The reason he's important to Valentine's is because he also at one time wore the number 45. 45. Valentine's Day is the 45th day of the year. And there's a lot more that goes along with that, but he also wore the jersey number 12 for one game, and that's because on Valentine's Day, somebody stole his jersey, so he had to wear the number 12 jersey. And in that game, after that game where he wore number 12, I believe it was, could be misspeaking this, but I believe it was the Bulls' 49th game of the season, and he scored 49 points in that game. And the reason that was significant is because the date of 2/27, which 2/27 is the 49th prime number, but that is the same as Valentine's Day on the Julian calendar is the same as 2/27 on the Gregorian calendar. We also just recently had John Wall being injured, and John Wall found out he had a partial rupture in his Achilles tendon on the same day Donald Trump addressed the Wall. Think about Trump being in Washington, and then John Wall of the Washington Wizards ruptures his Achilles. Achilles also equals 48, just like Wall, just like Donald Trump, and so on. Michael Jordan born on the 48th day of the year. In 2015, there's just so much going on, but, you know, Jordan Spieth won the Masters, right? And Olivia Jordan won the Miss USA. There was all kinds of stuff with Michael Jordan that year, just tons and tons of stuff. Michael Jordan even went to a Prince concert on Valentine's Day or whatever. And it was on 23 Wall Street. Think about Michael Jordan and the number 23, 23 Wall Street. At one point in time, Michael Jordan he wore the number 45 for 22 games, and on the 23rd game, he switched back to number 23 when they were playing I believe the Indiana, well, I can't remember who they were playing, but he wore number 45 for 22 games and then switched back to 23 on the 23rd game. And just think about it. Things like Space Jam equal 23. Michael Jordan's initials, MJ, right? M's the 13th letter. J's the 10th letter. 23. He wears number 23. Space Jam 23. All of it is perfectly planned this way, That's why Bill Murray was in Space Jam too. And Bill Murray, there's a reason that score changes to 67 points in the game for no reason at all. Not going to re-explain that, but it's all synced up to Valentine's and whatnot. But remember, he goes golfing with Bill Murray and Larry Bird, and then he gets sucked into the hole on Space Jam and whatnot. But Bill Murray's in Ghostbusters, and on Ghostbusters 2, the lady tells him that the end of the world is going to be Valentine's Day of 2016. I forgot to mention, too, that Michael Jordan, or Obama in 2015 on Valentine's Day, he met with the leader of the country Jordan. Think about that. He met with the leader of the country Jordan on Valentine's Day. Been talking about how Philadelphia is important to all of this and earthquake symbolism, which could be synced up to San Francisco, another thing I was talking about a lot, how San Francisco and Philadelphia are connected. But I'll leave some links in the description with my Hulk Hogan video, and Hulk Hogan got his revenge against Earthquake in Philadelphia at the Spectrum, and Michael Jordan owns the Charlotte Hornets, who play in the Spectrum Center, and that's where the All-Star game is going to be happening this year on his birthday. But the capital of the country Jordan used to be called Philadelphia until the year 106 AD, and then it was later destroyed by earthquakes. And I talked about why that was important, that Michael Jordan originally retired on the date of 10/6, and much, much more, So, just wanted to point out that a lot of this stuff with Michael Jordan is really important. And another interesting thing, I went back and looked at my video on the Rising Star Challenge MVP that opened up that All-Star Week in 2015 on Lupercalia. And a big thing I talked about was how Andrew Wiggins was the MVP, and he shot 8 of 11. He wears number 22, and he scored 22 points, and Zach LaVine also scored 22 points, and the word basketball equals 22. That's why the film Like Mike came out, I think it came out like 22 days after Bow Wow's 22nd birthday or something like that. But this 8-11 is interesting. Andrew Wiggins shot 8 of 11, and that is a big number we've been talking about in regards to San Francisco this year. That's Hulk Hogan's birthday. That's the mayor of San Francisco's birthday, London Breed. And it's really important here. It really is. This 8-11 date. Zach LaVine shot 9 of 11 even. Just think about 9-11. And now we're talking about 8-11 possibly being another 9/11 type event. But the story with the Fairfax guy here, so Justin Fairfax, he went to, the second one supposedly happened at Duke University. And if you remember in 2015, Duke University just so happened to win the college basketball championship, and it was synced up to this German Wings air crash. This guy, Andreas Lubitz. Think about his name, Andreas. And the media showed us a picture of him at the Golden Gate Bridge. And his name equals the same as Duke Blue Devils in Gematria. And he crashed the plane in the French Alps. And in the French Alps, there's the military mountain men who are called Blue Devils. And if you follow Zachary K. Hubbard in 2015, he talked about why this story was synced up to the Duke Blue Devils winning the March Madness tournament, and then they did win the March Madness tournament. But just pointing out all the stuff with San Francisco, all of these things that I'm talking about interrelated. And, this story is also reminds me a lot of this guy right here sitting in front of the Golden Gate Bridge, the San Andreas Fault. His name's Andreas Lubitz. The video I made about Bow Wow a long time ago, he announced his retirement 152 days after his birthday. And Duke Blue Devils equal 152. So does Andreas Lubitz. So does Pennsylvania. What else is interesting? So we got this story on February 8th now of this second alleged sexual assault person. And it is all synced up. And it was at Duke University. In this post about Kurtis Blow, I even mentioned how it's synced up to basketball, right? He has the song Basketball, and all the stuff with, that movie was all about basketball. And the story of Kurtis Blow comes 185 days before his birthday, and the word basketball just so happens to equal 185. And it's also 6 months and 4 days. The word NBA equals 164. And I mentioned we get, the governor of Virginia, and then the Attorney General of Virginia, and we also have the Justin Fairfax story that is on Virginia. And I figured it was probably connected to March Madness because Virginia is called the Cavaliers, right? The king symbolism. And the only team that they've lost to so far this year just so happens to be the Duke Blue Devils. I think Virginia's ranked like number 3 right now, and Duke's number 1. So look at that. The only team they've lost to is Duke. And I didn't look into it the other night, but I even wrote it here, how possibly the Virginia Cavaliers will win this year. Need to look more at it. Or maybe just the catalyst to Duke. I need to look in when does the tournament start and so on, right? And today we get this Justin Fairfax story on the 39th day of the year. And what's interesting is that it comes 39 days before March Madness begins on March 19th. So we get a story about this 39-year-old Justin Fairfax on the 39th day of the year, 39 days before March Madness begins. Duke Blue Devil, or just Blue Devils, equals 39. And Virginia is the 10th state, and if you write out the word 10, it equals 39. And remember, Lil Bow Wow, his birthday is March 9th, 3-9. And if you write out like Mike, that equals 39 in Gematria. So it's absolutely synced up to the Virginia Cavaliers and the Duke Blue Devils, right? Black History Month is also important, because Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X both also died at the age of 39. And also look when this NBA or this college basketball tournament is. It begins on March 19th, and the championship game's on April 8th, which is interesting for a number of reasons. April 8th, that's the day that Michael Jordan started playing baseball with the Birmingham Barons. Also, his birthday is the 48th day of the year and so on. But, it's going to be played at U.S. Bank Stadium, which is where Super Bowl 52 was held. And that's in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where the Minnesota Timberwolves play, right? What are the odds of that, right? Talking about how it's synced up to Teen Wolf. It's 59 days after the day we got this story. Michael Jordan equals 59. Justin Fairfax equals 59. This is a number that is negatively stamped on black people all throughout history. That's why Kurtis Blow was born in 59, and he's currently 59 years old, and that's why we're getting a story about him again in the media. Slave, Negro, blues, all equal 59. Motown Records came out in the year 59. AIDS supposedly came out in the Belgian Congo that equals 59 in the year 59. That's why, Rodney King equals 59. That's why the Civil War came to an end on 5/9. Abraham Lincoln's birthday, 59 days before the Civil War began. And of course, Black History Month and a non-leap year even ends on the 59th day of the year. And it's fitting. It has the 42nd day of the year. And then a leap year, it ends on the 60th day. Just notice this here, right? 42. That's why Jackie Robinson wore the number 42. That's why we're told Rodney King's birthday is 42. That's why Rosa Parks rode on the bus that equals 42. Also 39, you know. Rosa Parks was 42 years old when she supposedly wouldn't get off the bus. Well, let's look at Kurtis Blow in Gematria. Kurtis Blow, 42. The story about Kurtis Blow comes 181 days before his birthday, which that's the 42nd prime number. And remember, Kurtis Blow's birthday is August 9th, 8-9. And then we're getting all these stories out of Virginia. Virginia equals 89 in Gematria. In 2015, Queen Elizabeth was 89 years old. And that's why it was important with Taylor Swift having that album called 1989. And they called her the Queen of the VMAs. Also, we had, in regards to earthquakes, we had the movie Field of Dreams that came out in the year 89 on Queen Elizabeth's birthday. And that was the year of the Earthquake World Series. And in the movie Field of Dreams, they even foreshadowed a same city World Series connected to the Oakland Athletics, who were in that World Series, who won that World Series over the San Francisco Giants. So once again, some more earthquake symbolism going on. The story about Kurtis Blow, too, came out on February 6th, 2-6, which just so happened to be Queen Elizabeth's 67th anniversary of being the Queen. You know, it's her 67th anniversary, and this is 2019. The 19th prime is 67. Valentine's equals 67. You know, that's why Nicholas Cruz was the Valentine's Day shooter. His name equals 67. That's why he was born exactly 19 weeks after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. That's why he was 19 years old. You know, it's also important to Prince, the singer. Remember, Michael Jordan went and saw Prince on Valentine's Day in 2015, and then in 2016, Prince died on Queen Elizabeth's birthday. Think about it. Prince dies on Queen Elizabeth's birthday. He died 67 days after Vanity. One of his old girlfriends died during Lupercalia, right? And the word, we talked about that way back when, the phrase blood sacrifice equals 67. So I just wonder if Queen Elizabeth is going to go in the next year or so. Seems 2019 seems like a perfect year. She's going to be 93 years old. There's tons of things that go along with it. Even that song Basketball by Lil Bow Wow came out on 6/24. And Queen Elizabeth and Prince Charles's birthdays are 6 months and 24 days apart. And if you write out King Charles III, it equals 624 in Gematria. Something I followed all summer, synced up to Cleveland. But anyway, Virginia 89, Kurtis Blow's birthday 8-9. The Queen was 89 years old 2015. You know, the 1989 thing with Taylor Swift. Also, August 9th, I talked about a long time ago, it leaves 221 days in the year. And it's interesting because 5/2, the day Princess Charlotte was born, that's the 122nd day of the year. You know, like the reflection, 221, 122. 221 is the 52nd day of the year, and 5/2 is the 122nd day of the year. You see how that makes sense? And then August 9th is the day that leaves 221 days in the year. And 89 days before Queen Elizabeth's birthday is 122. So it was an important number to Queen Elizabeth that I've been talking about for a long time, 89. So interesting the story comes out about Kurtis Blow on Queen Elizabeth's anniversary being the Queen, which is 2-6. And if you're new and you're still here, the word Queen equals 26. She was born in the year 1926. She was coronated on June 2nd, which over there they write the date as 6 or 2/6 even. You know, she turned 26 in 1952, you know, after she became the Queen. So she turned 26 the same year she became the Queen. Born in 26, the word Queen equals 26. So, I mean, you just can't make it up. Another reason I know that it's synced up to Michael Jordan is because in my post or my video about Fleetwood Mac and whatnot, that story came out 127 days before Michael Jordan's birthday. 127? And in that video, I talked about how the Fleetwood Mac guitarist died 127 days before the story of the other member, Lindsey Buckingham, suing Fleetwood Mac. Think about Buckingham and Buckingham Palace. Buckingham Palace equals 127. King Arthur equals 127. Lindsay Adams, Buckingham equals 127. And then the story comes 127 days before Michael Jordan's birthday. And also notice what Virginia equals. I didn't even put that in there. I just noticed it a little bit ago. Virginia equals 127. And 127 is this big thing I've been talking about with Michael Jordan. The Bulls retired his number 1 year and 27 days after he retired. The word retirement equals 127. He played 127 games for the Birmingham Barons. And he began his baseball career 127 days before the Major League Baseball strike happened. And then he retired from baseball on 3/10 of 1995. It has a date numerology of 127. The team that he played for in baseball was the Birmingham Barons that were coached by Terry Francona, who coached the Cleveland Indians, the team that lost to Chicago just before Donald Trump won the election, right? Or the, rigged election, selection, whatever. Just before that, I was following this Native American theme all summer, talking about how I think the Indians are going to play the Cubs in the World Series. And then they did, but and then we got the Dakota Access Pipeline stuff, right? Think about it. Native Americans while the Indians are in the World Series. But we got a story about 127 people being arrested in North Dakota. And North Dakota equals 127, and that World Series came to an end on the 127th anniversary of North Dakota becoming a state. And August 8th was the 127th day of the season that year. And if you write out Curse of the Billy Goat, it equals 88. And that's what the Cubs broke. And it's also important because Bow Wow announced his retirement on the date of August 8th, 8/8. So, I don't know. I think there's so much going on. I didn't have the time to make these videos the other night, so I'm trying to remember a lot of this information. There's a lot going on with it. But the Nebraska Cornhuskers are so important to what is going on. I've been talking about this like crazy, and earlier today I watched the newest Big Bang Theory because for whatever reason, the Big Bang Theory is always connected to what is going on with what I'm talking about in the media. And the newest episode that came out after the Super Bowl that was super connected to 9/11 and the Nebraska Cornhuskers and so on, they mention the Nebraska Cornhuskers, but not the Cornhuskers. Do not discuss the Cornhuskers. And then Leonard ends up talking about the Cornhuskers because Penny sells him out. I want to give away the episode, but what are the odds they bring up the Nebraska Cornhuskers in this episode? And I mean, I've watched every episode. I don't remember the Cornhuskers being brought up anytime recently. But then after the Super Bowl, they make an episode where they even talk about the Cornhuskers. There's an episode that came out. It's the 46th episode called The Cornhusker Vortex, I noticed. And that came out in 2009, which is interesting because that's the year Sue and Rex Burkhead played for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And Rex Burkhead, I noticed, got drafted to the Cincinnati Bengals. And then just after the Super Bowl, we got the story of Zach Taylor, right? The former Nebraska player who was the quarterback's coach of the Rams, who became the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. So, and Rex Burkhead's real name, his full name equals 9/11 in Jewish Gematria. And think about how the Rams and the Patriots haven't played each other in the Super Bowl since just after 9/11. So we'll leave it there. I don't know the exact meaning of all of it, but I'm pretty sure that the things that I was talking about in 2015, they're going to start happening this year. It just seems that way. It seems really synced up to this year. Possibly it's something else that I'm not understanding, but I really feel like we're going to get, some type of major earthquake or, the death of the queen. I was talking a lot about Obama being possibly assassinated back then, which is interesting too. Obama, the Pope, or the Queen, they were all really important back then. So who knows? We'll see what's going on with it. It's just really synced up to Teen Wolf again. And that's because Michael Jordan's going to be 56 years old this year. So a lot of dates to watch out for in February too. Lupercalia, the 3-day festival. I don't know. It's really important. Michael Jordan's birthday, the 52nd day of the year. Then we got Trump and Kim Jong-un meeting on 2/27. So, and there's some interesting things about that too. February is really, really important. And we just had that wolf moon that we're on 120. That's all synced up to the moon and a bunch of other things and Moses and whatnot. And the reason I bring that up is because February equals 120 in Gematria. This new meeting is going to be in Vietnam that equals 42, just like Kim Jong-un, just like World War, just like the word war. The last time they met was on 6/12, which is interesting because World War equals 6/12 in reverse Sumerian. 6/12 is also mentioned, Revelation 6/12 talks about the great earthquake and whatnot. So it's definitely, definitely important. The Vietnam War, it began 827 days after the Korean War came to an end. And that's important because 827 is the 144th prime number, and Vietnam War equals 144. Vietnam also established on the same day that World War II came to an end, so it's definitely synced up to World War stuff. And it's especially interesting to me because in 2015, yet again, I was talking about the date of August 12th being important to World War, and World War III possibly beginning on the date of August 12th. So, and we're talking a lot about the dates of August 10th and August 11th. So just something to think about. Doesn't mean that World War is going to start this year. Maybe it's for something else, but it's definitely, definitely interesting, especially with all this coding to what I was talking about in 2015. Even that the blood moon when Pope Francis was in the United States, he was leaving from Philadelphia. Notice the total eclipse began. Well, let me find it here. That eclipse, the blood moon, the fourth of the tetrad, it began at 8:11 p.m. The moon enters whatever. I guess the eclipse began at 10:11, but the whole moon phase thing, it began at 8:11, which is very interesting. It was on the East Coast. Been mentioning a lot about Philadelphia. That's where Pope Francis left from the United States on the Jesuit anniversary. In 2015, that's why we had American Pharaoh win the 141st Kentucky Derby, because 141st prime is 811, and that's why that horse was sponsored by Call 811. And I believe that that Kentucky Derby was even on the same day that Princess Charlotte was born, 5/2. And we had them stories about Michael Jordan and Tom Brady doing a pickup game. And then Tom Brady took all of his buddies to the Mayweather fight on that day. Right? So we'll leave it there. We'll see how these stories play out. Sure seems that this story is connected to either the Duke Blue Devils or the Virginia Cavaliers. It's synced up to the royal symbolism through all that. Lots of stuff going on. So just another thing where I talk about, I know I'm rambling here, but it's the truth. Like, I've talked about so many things that come up in the media just days after I talk about it, and still people think that it's just craziness, and I don't understand how you can even think that, you know what I mean? Who who would have even thought to think about Kurtis Blow being connected to the Blackface story, and then Kurtis Blow 3 days after I make a video about it even, and I mentioned Kurtis Blow might be important. Kurtis Blow is not only important, he's to the media, he's important to a story that is about the blackface stuff, connected to the Virginia. What are the odds? So, whatever, have a good one. Peace.